Welcome everyone. My name is Lisa and I'm with Queen Bee Creations. We're going to be taking this card that I made and we're going to be making it out of some fall colors. I'm doing this over Zoom, and so I'm kind of learning something new. Now that I can see your comments, I feel a little better. For today's card, I brought out some colors. I have Cajun Craze, Mint Macaron, Early Espresso, and Crumb Cake. And the idea was, what I did is I took the paper I wanted to use on the inside. That's what I'm going to use as this inside layer instead of the red foil. And so I picked the colors that were in this designer series paper. That's one of my absolute favorite things about Stampin' Up! Is that you can take their designer series paper and color match it to all of our cardstock and all of our inks. So I thought I would ask you guys which color you liked. Does anybody have a preference of what color we use? What would you like to see this card done in? Yes, choose just one color. So we're going to start out with our standard card base. This is 8.5 by 5.5. So it's just half of a sheet of cardstock. And I want it to do a gatefold in the middle of the card. And so to do a gatefold, because we know the front of the card is 4¼ inches wide, I'm going to divide that in half. And so I know that each one of these panels is going to be 2 1/8. So I'm going to bring this in on my trimmer, and I'm going to use my scoring blade at 2 1/8 from this side, and then I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees and do 2 1/8 from this side. So I know that I'm folding this in, making sure that I'm even on the edges, and then I'm going to take this side and I'm going to butt it up against the other piece. And then I'm going to go back and push this down. And by butting it up against this other piece, that's what makes sure that I have my middle right, so that it comes together and it doesn't overlap. It's not too short. Like I said, this is the piece that's going to go on the inside. So this piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we can come over here and I'm going to put some adhesive on this. This is just beautiful designer series paper. And on the back, the Gilded Autumn wall has kind of a copper foil to it. It's really pretty. And then I'm using the brushed metallics for this. Now this design was something that Tammy Beard had done a few weeks ago, and then Mary Fish shared it on her blog. And so someone saw it and said, oh, that's so pretty. I don't know how to do that. Can you tell me how to do it? And that's how we came up with today's Facebook Live. So when you see something out there on the web and you think, oh, I want to know how to make that, please tell me, because that gives me some fabulous ideas to use on Facebook Live, because that's my purpose in being here, is to show you guys what you want to learn. So this was what she wanted to learn. Now I cut out 3 of these and they're going to come in from opposite sides, and I'm only going to glue down half. And they were a little bit too long. And so I had to cut them off on the edge, and I'm going to show you how we do that. And I'm going to start out by layering up. And again, you could use any of the colors that are in this designer series paper, but because I went ahead and die cut it ahead of time, I used our Ornate Layers dies. And this is the one that's this right here. And then this one nests perfectly right in the middle. And so that's what this Early Espresso is cut out of, is this one. Now I wanted to go down a little smaller for the sentiment. So this one I just cut on the trimmer. So this was just a 3/4 inch strip. I think it's by 4 1/4, but I'm going to be trimming it down. And I cut them so that the pattern lines up. At least it did when I got started. There we go. And so I know this is going to be the top, the middle, and the bottom of our layers, because that's how the pattern lines up for us. And then, like I said, this is our sentiment, which is going to go here. And it's out of our stitched rectangles. It's going to be the smallest one here. Stampin' Up! Does this wonderful thing where they make stuff so that it interchanges and it works together. And I just love how they do that, because I can take any of our standard shapes, the stitched rectangles, the the stitched shapes, my layering ovals, layering circles, and they're all going to interchange really well with other special stamp sets that Stampin' Up! Has, and the special dies. They're going to nest together. And I just think that's wonderful. It gives me so many more uses out of my dies. So we're using the stamp set that goes together with this called Gather Together. This is something Stampin' Up! Had last year and everybody liked so well, they carried it over. I keep my template in here because some of you know that I like to do a lot of things on my Stamparatus. And so I punched one leaf just out of a scrap. And then when I do other leaves, I can put them in there and use the Stamparatus. You know, I would start out putting my stamp in here, pick it up with the lid, and then I could put this in here, ink it up, and then I can stamp down and it'll put my leaf detail right in the middle of that. I also save the negatives of things because I can also put this into a card by having, you know, this isn't the right designer series paper, but I could choose a designer series paper to poke through the back and have this on the front of a card by just cutting a slightly smaller circle or maybe even a circle the same size. So don't throw away all those little extras. There's always something we can do with them. So I'm going to use this sentiment because it's the one that the smallest one that I think will fit right here. Looks like I might cut off a little bit of the bottom, but that might be okay. And I'm trying out some new technology, so please bear with me. Things are a little bit funky today. You can hear the little thump. I've got one of those Stampin' storage things right behind me. And I store all of my inks right in front of me so I can pull and put back as I use them. So I'm just layering these up. It's got some little teeny tiny pieces in this one. And so it's helpful to use the die brush. Poke all those extra little pieces out. Of course, it works better when we put it on the Take Your Pick tool, since that's what it's designed to go on. I'm flipping it because it's a little bigger than it needs to be, but since the top's going to come in from the left side, I can let it hang over on the left, and that's going to be fine because I'm going to end up trimming that off in the end. So that one I want to hang off that way. The middle one I want to hang off this way, so I'm going to glue it down like this. You could also choose to cut it exactly the right size, but since we're trimming it off anyway, it was just kind of an extra step that's not really necessary. And then we're back over to this side, so I'm going to butt it up over here. Now it's kind of a tight fit when they go on there. So what I did was I tried to make the little fringe go as high to the edge as I could. And then I'm just going to trim off back here. And it's always easiest to trim from the back side because the color difference is so drastic, it makes it easy to just snip it off. So that's going to be our top piece. And then the middle. And you could also do this. You could line this up. And this will tell you where it cut from. Oh, it shifted our pattern. Guess I should have made it the right size. Oh, well, I'll live and learn, right? Even us so-called professionals goof once in a while. Does anybody have any questions about how I did this or need any further explanation? I think it's pretty simple, but I don't want to go too fast that I lose anybody. So if you ever have questions on a card I'm making, please pipe up and say something. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to glue just this half. So because I want wiggle room, I'm going to go with my liquid glue. And that's going to allow me to just kind of slide it around and make sure that I'm butted up to the end over here. And then I'm butted up on the edge up top. And then I'm going to do the bottom one. And this is how I do spacing all the time, is I do the outside edges and then center the middle, because you don't really know. I mean, you could guess, you know, how much room you think it's going to need in between. But if I put either side on first and then go back and add the middle, then I can take this piece and center it So it's exactly where it needs to be. Because this is kind of a tight fit, it probably would have been easy, but sometimes when there's more space in between, this just makes it easy. Especially when putting on like rhinestones or pearls or something. If you want a set of 3, you put either side and then the middle, and then they're evenly spaced. See what I meant about needing wiggle room? And then it's a little long, so I can come back and turn that off. I tend to err to the side of too long instead of too short because I can always trim off. It's kind of hard to glue back on. Here's our sentiment. And then I'm going to have the leaf go right there. I think they're the same color. Some of the lights hits them a little different. One looked darker than the other, but I think they're the same. They're from the brushed metallic as well. And I'm butting that up against this side so my border is right, because I'm going to cover up this side, and so it won't matter that it's not long enough on that side. And I think I might even pop it up on a dimensional. And I could actually, if I wanted to, add some more foliage coming from behind it. But for the purpose of today's card, we're mostly working on the fold. And so really, that's kind of all there is to it. What do you think? Think you can do that? Again, I'm looking for people to post to the creativity realm so that I can award you guys prizes for sharing with me. If you load photos up there, then I'm going to try to pick some people to send little goodies to. Okay, that would fit. This is, let's see, 375 by 5. But I think I want to show more of the designer series paper. So I'm going to bring this in and I'm going to trim this down. Now this is one of my pre-cut sheets. I have a drawer over there where I have all of my inside layers all pre-cut. I usually take a full pack at a time and just trim it all down and put it in a drawer so that when I need an inside, I can just grab one. It makes it super useful. And then we can choose an inside sentiment. We said wishing you well on the outside. So let's say so glad to have you in my life. I like that one. Let's see, we'll bring back in Cajun Craze. I don't know if that looks crooked or not. Maybe just the teensiest bit. See, I didn't line it up on my grid paper and see what happens. Normally, I will put my stamps on the grid paper and then put my block over the top. And if I've lined up the stamp on the grid paper and then the block on the grid paper, it keeps me straight. And I think we're close enough there. And then I always put a little something in the corner because I like the inside of the card to kind of match the outside. And there's our card. So I hope you enjoyed today's card. So thank you for joining me again. My name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and you can find all of the materials to make this card on your own on my website. And as soon as I close this down, I will change the description of our video to give you a list of all of the materials that I used in the making of this card. So that's the one we made, and here's the one that was my prototype to begin with. Again, thank you to Tammy Beard for her great idea. Thanks for joining me. Bye.